Hello and welcome back to our Porsche restoration video series. Today we're going to talk about block sanding our epoxy coat and doing a full mock-up and what that is and why we want to do it. But first we'll talk about our sanding and how to get the basic desired pattern and smoothness in this layer. So first thing we want to do is we want to clean the car, wipe it down for any dirt, dust, and residual sand from the area. If you're doing any sandblasting, you want to get that off there because you could scratch it. And this is a 150 grit sanding process. So 150 grit is really, it's a shaping grit, it's a refining grit, but it's not a finishing grit. So we can actually do some things with this grit to bring it into shape and to flatten it out that we can't do with a finer grit. If we go back to 80 grit, we're going to end up with sanding mark transfers in our next coat, so we don't want to do that. But 150 grit, you can see here, I'm doing some block sanding. We've got some low spots, got some low areas here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take notes on this process, all our panels mocked up on here, and then we're going to actually spray these panels on horses rather than on the car, because we can get a better coverage and a better coat if we can walk around the piece and the piece is flat. So anytime your piece is laying flat, you can load up the material. Anytime it's hanging vertical, you can't put as much material on there, and you run the risk of sags in there and other things. So really best to spray as much as you can in a flat situation. See here, so what we're looking for is we're looking to get rid of all the highs and lows and our orange peel, and that's our guide right there, that dark area. We're trying to sand that out, trying to get that sanded out. However, we can only sand as far as once we get to bare metal. Once we get to bare metal, we got to stop. When you start seeing little bits like this, little tiny spots like that, time to stop. We can catch the rest of it on our next primer surfacer coat. So what I'll do is I just want to show you this because it shows up good in this lighting. We're going to go ahead and scuff that. We're not going to sand it. We're going to scuff these dark areas that are showing through right before we put down our primer surfacer, because we don't want any slick or hard spots on our primer, or epoxy rather. See right here, it's very thin. That's it. When you're sanding, you just see that coming through. Right then, you got to stop. You don't want to sand anymore. That's your gauge. That's your sensor, so to speak. You see those popping up here and there. It's actually good, but you don't want to keep going. Before we do our primer surfacer, though, we're going to go ahead and spot prime all those areas. Door here. Get it out, but I think we'll be able to get that out on our next primer surfacer coat. And if not that one, then I'll just treat these areas until we do get it out. I won't add any more body filler here. We'll just build up layers of primer surfacer, keep 150 grit in it until we get it. And then once we like it, then we'll go ahead and put another coat on, and we'll sand that at 320. Then we're getting close. This is what everything should pretty much look like. See, if you see green coming through, you're good. You can keep sanding. Not a problem. That means you're high. But the second you see metal coming through, you see these two together side by side, that's when you got to stop. You're trying to get the green out, but the second you get here, you're not going to get any more out of it without distorting your paint. You can see I was trying to work that out, didn't quite make it. But not deep enough where we have to worry about it. We don't want to have to fill that. We'll catch out with our next primer, and it'll be gone. We're going to spot prime that first. Also, you see these pinholes here. First thing we want to do before we get sanding this, we want to clean the car, and then we want to find all our pinholes, as many as we can, and fill those first, and then sand that off, so that you're not filling pinholes after you've sanded. You really want to do it first and then sand afterwards, although you're probably not going to get them all, but you can get a lot of them. and you'll just have to go back and find anything you missed. It's easier to catch it before we start sanding than after. So let's take a look at our sanding blocks. This is our DuraBlock set. On this car, I use this particular kit, AF44A. And here's our, this was the best sanding block for the shape of this car. This is about 1.5 inches by 12 inches. And that works great. That works great on the doors, the roof, and the round areas, fenders. Is really has just enough flex in it and enough stability in it to get you where you want to go with it. You know, and the sandpaper I'm using is a 3M brand. 3M. Use the gold. The whole trick with the sandpaper, sanding on this guy, you want the sandpaper to be sharp, like brand new sharp. So when you start sanding an area, you're going to first start off by removing the orange peel before you get it flattened out. You see this area is really flattened out. You're not going to make it through the orange peel and flattening out before you're changing up sandpaper. If you're making it through the orange peel and getting this done too, you're probably using the sandpaper a little bit too long and pressing too hard. And really what you want is you want to be light with the pressure, and you want the sandpaper to be really sharp and to do the cutting for you. So it doesn't last very long. You're going to throw a lot of sandpaper, but that little bit extra sandpaper in the end will make the total difference. Sight down here, we can see they're starting to come together. So anyways, don't overuse your sandpaper. Have waves in your paint. You can see back here on the lid, I didn't quite get everything out I was trying to get. There's a lot of body work in there. But we're not so deep with this orange peel that we won't be able to take it out on our next go around with a primer surfacer. Inside, same thing here. A little bit dark in there. Okay, so let's talk about our mock-up and why we do it. Looks like I'm just screwing around here, but actually I'm checking for things. Okay, so when we move on, what we're doing is we're adding many more layers of primer. We're going to put at least 4 more coats of primer on there, although we'll be sanding a lot off. We're going to put another sealer coat of epoxy primer before the base coats of paint. We're going to put at least 2 base coats of paint, and we're going to put on 3 to 4 top coats of clear on top of that before we stop spraying material on this car. So we want to be ready for all the buildup and the thickness, and we want to be checking for things. Pull this out of here. Okay, so even on your badging, these holes are really important. You can see the paint goes down in there and actually seals off that edge. So right now, if this badge is a little bit tight, put it in here, or a little bit crooked, what we want to do now is we want to wring that hole out, and we want to calculate in or try and add in some for added extra layers of paint that's going to be going down in the holes. The same thing for all these letters. Our front badge, pull this guy out of here. You can see here our holes look good, but that edge has got a seal on it. And so by the time we get through all our painting, we want to make sure that all this is going to fit without having to ream it out later. The problem with adjustments later in the paint, if you have to bust through a finished sealed edge, then you run the risk of the paint lifting or popping, and we don't want that. So you want to make sure you have enough clearance in all your holes. Check over here with the mirror, I can show you. You see here, my mirror didn't quite make it. So I already had to ream those out, and I'm plenty big now to add my material on there, and that mirror should just slide right in there. If I did this after finished paint, this whole area runs a chance of lifting off and really ruining the paint, and then you don't even want to go there. So do your mock-up, check your badges, check all your holes, everything that's going to bolt up, try and get it. Okay, so this is a new replacement grill. I got this from Stoddard, real nice looking grill, but it has some problems. So even if you're buying new trim, you want to bolt it down, you want to cinch it down and see if anything's rubbing, will it go in the holes, what the problem might be. So you can see here, get up in here, okay, so I'm not seated, get that camera in there, that nut is already resting on my primer.